Good evening, everyone. This is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and here at DDO Players. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Draculetta.
Greetings, everybody.
Let's see what we have in the game news front this week. Looks like not much, but you did take a little look at the loot in the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Oh, loot. Sweet, sweet loot. Yes, Turbine kindly posted a nice little write-up on all of the named loot that you can grab out of the various chests that you may or may not see because they are random. In Update 25, Reign of Elemental Evil, and there is some nice shinies in here. I absolutely am in love with the Assassin's Kiss dagger. Must try to get one of those for my various rogues.
Ooh, looks like a level 7 weapon, so...
Yes, there. I didn't, in the article I put over on the Turbine posting, you can actually see the epic version of it. There is the level 7 heroic version, and then there's the epic versions of all of these drops. So it depends, it depends which version you go into will determine, of course, which version of the loot you will get.
All right.
There's also a nice longbow that I fell in love with, so you can check out all of the various. I just kind of put a few of them in the article I did over for our site, DDO Players, but be sure to definitely go over to Turbine and look at all of. There is like a lot of named loot that, and once again, it's a random chance because it has a chance to drop out of any of the monster boss named boss chests that will appear throughout the dungeon.
Well, knowing what the random number generator does to you, you'll never see it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm afraid of. But I kind of like that fact though, because I was worried, which little spoiler alert for you, you'll find out later in the show, that the only way to get this stuff was to actually, finish the dungeon out. But no, this stuff can drop out of any of the chests. Of course, I'm sure it's a really low drop rate, but as you said, well, the RNG just hates me anyway, so it's going to be an extremely low drop rate for me.
Oh, well, I suspect that there'll be a much higher percentage on the type of boss it is. For example, the final boss in Part 1 probably has a higher one than the Rigger Reds, and the final boss probably has a higher drop than the midway boss.
Probably that would make complete sense that they would do it that way. So go check that out and figure out which loot you want to pull out of the chest in the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Was there a crossbow?
Yes, there is.
Repeating?
Yes, it is.
Ooh, I'll have to look into that.
See, now you're going to want to keep running the temple to get that crossbow.
Well, I'll have to do it with my artificer rather than the character I've been running with it lately. But all right, let's go into the DDO Chronicle. And does it have something exciting, filled with loot, filled with elemental evil?
Kind of. There was some talk of the Temple of Elemental Evil, because that's the big thing in the game right now, so there's still some people talking about that. But a while back, we talked about LSD37's Character Builder Lite, which was in beta. Well, it looks like now he or she, I'm not sure which, I'm going to guess he, but we'll just say...
Ellis sounds like a female name.
We'll just say they to keep it vague.
Okay.
As the version 1.0 is now ready for you to download and use. So you can check that out. I actually haven't downloaded it to check it out yet, but that is something I will be doing at some point. And that's it for the community this week. In the fan site news, DDO's last podcast, they had an episode that just came out other than this one, but the one in the Chronicle is they're talking about tips for building a character for past lives, and the guest on that show with Patrick was Bonnie Bew, so give that a listen. And really, that is about it for the Chronicle this week. Not a lot going on other than just various little talks of the temple, of course.
Did they discuss store sales in there?
They did, and we did as well. So let me tell you what you can get for the free sample of the week through April 23rd when you use coupon code AIR17, AIR17, and that is one code per account. As always, you can get tokens of the Traveler ×3. 20% off, also shared bank storage, character bank upgrades, storage bags, shared bank platinum vault. So this is a good week to spend some TP if you haven't. It's always good to see all of the storage and bank upgrades for sale in the store, especially at 20% off. And you do know all this month is the Elemental month. So this week it is Air Week through April 23rd. You can get plus 30% guild renowned, which is kind of exciting if you're trying to build up your guild levels. You also, in the marketplace, you can see the Denjiv Brothers Succubus Hunt. So go hunt for those succubis in the marketplace.
Succubis?
Succubis, because there's more than one, so I call them succubis.
Yeah, but why the S at the end?
I don't know, because I wanted to add an S. Why do you have to be so literal all the time, Pineley? And also, the Festival of the Traveler, you can find him in the marketplace as well. And then use that coupon code, get yourself some free tokens. And that's what's going on in the store sales this week.
All right. So we only get 3 rather than a baker's dozen worth of them.
That's nice segue, Pineley. And do you know what a baker's dozen is, Pineley?
The traditional meaning or the one associated with Eberron?
Well, whichever one you want to tell us what it is.
Well, traditionally it means 13, but apparently there's a slightly different meaning when you're speaking of the history of Eberron, since the designer Keith Baker happened to put his own image into the meaning of the word.
Yes, and our writer Musk took a look at this, and he gave some examples of this. And some of these I was not aware of, like this one, for a matter of fact. There are 13 unique planes, but only 12 of them are currently interact with Eberron on a regular basis. I guess I did not realize there was 13 planes. I just always thought there was 12 that normally interact with, but apparently there's one more out there somewhere.
Wait, isn't that the whole? No, okay. I was thinking about that first raid with the dragon and whether or not that had something to do with the.
But the number 13 is used a lot. Like there are 13 current nations.
Okay.
One of those is a wasteland known as Mournland. During the Age of Giants, a legend says there were 13 moons, but currently there are only 12 because one has vanished. I wonder if it's in that other plane somewhere. Ooh, see?
Well, it says 13 months in the article. Oh, and moons. Okay, I see. They're both of them. Okay. Yep. All right.
So you can go over and check some of the other Baker's Dozens that Musk pointed out. And like I said, some of these I didn't know about, so it's kind of interesting to see some of the stuff.
How do you divide up months in a world that has 12 moons going around? Because it's
very, very carefully, I think.
Yes. And in the Dwarven Moor holds, there were 13 clans, but one was destroyed.
They're dwarves. Who cares?
Yeah. And, of course, Keith Baker was the freelancer who originally devised the setting for Eberron, because Eberron was developed as part of a contest.
Yes, and I think I knew that, but when I read that, I was like, really? And then I thought, you knew that. Yeah, and then...
Yeah, I remember back when when the contest was put out and all that stuff, and finally, yes, they announced the winner of it, and hence Eberron was born. And DDO was never the same.
That's right. And Keith Baker is really into Eberron because he also has a tattoo of the greater mark of marking on his right arm. So he is hardcore into his Eberron campaign setting, folks. Getting it tattooed on his body.
All right. Then let's go into the news beyond DDO. And Forbes interviewed with the brand director and executive producer for Dungeons & Dragons, Nathan Stewart. And how did that interview go?
There was a lot of interesting little tidbits that kind of gleamed out of this article. They started out talking about how the launch of 5e went, and Mr. Stewart said, they don't openly talk about numbers because Hasbro, who is the parent company of Wizards of the Coast, is a publicly traded company, so they don't give, details on that other than when, they do their year-end reports. But they are very, very happy with how the launch went. He gives this example. He says, I think if you would have told us, or anyone for that matter, that before the launch, they would have said, really, you're going to be bigger than the third edition or 3.5? And he says the answer is an undoubtable yes. Everything exceeded their forecast. We didn't go in and say, hey, it's going to be the best launch ever. That's a gutsy forecast to make. But we forecasted pretty high, and then we reprinted everything. So when everything exceeded our forecast, in most cases, we reprinted within weeks of the official launch, not months like normally would happen. So we can gather from that people really, really, really like 5e.
All right, that's nice to hear.
And Mock in the chat room says Hasbro reported near record earnings today. And
that's right. It's about that time of the month.
Yeah, and he said he would like to think that's in part to D&D. And I would say he is probably correct in that statement. Because from what just a little, like Mike Merles has kind of offhandedly talked about, it's like, oh yeah, the launch was huge and, we had to do so many reprints. So this launch of 5e went really good for Wizards this time and exceeded their expectations. And this was kind of interesting. Our interviewer from Forbes asked where the products are selling the most. And he says that the ratios remain the same for us. Hobby stores and the book channel both are tremendous for us. But Amazon is really doing well for them. It's been a much bigger player this launch than it has been in the past. Oh. So, and I kind of thought, I guess that could be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing because it could be a bad thing because more people are ordering from Amazon versus going to your local game store, which I would like to see people go to your local game store if you have one. But I know there's some people, do not have a local game store that's very close and convenient for them to get to. So I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword.
I had a thing where I was looking things up today, and I said, what? There's a game store this close to where I live? I looked it up and everything on this. I reached their Facebook list. I said, we're a group of dedicated gamers. Unfortunately, the store has also just closed down.
Yeah, it's because of Amazon, I'm telling you. No, I don't know if it was, but, and also there was a few other things. He basically reiterated the fact that they are all about story. It's storylines. He repeated that a couple times in the interview. And what I found very interesting is when he said we need all of our digital partners, all of our physical partners to be able to come out and support the story because it's not just, oh, let's do the RPG release here and the minis release here, and maybe we'll have some video games release here. We're looking at telling this big story as a whole brand each time, so everyone needs to come along and come together. And he went on to say that it's 2 stories a year right now, which we have talked about in the past before. And he said that might go up or down depending on what the fan base wants. But as he says, we are story. The story drives everything.
Then let's go into our current story, which is, of course, the Temple of Elemental Evil. And it looks like we have a softcover version of the Player's Companion if you hate free PDFs.
That's right. I know some people, when we reported on this, we did get a few comments that, it's like, I really don't like to do PDFs for my RPGs. And, that's fine if you don't like PDFs. If you want a physical copy to hold in your hand, you can now do that. They are offering over on DDClassics.com. They are offering a $9.99 premium edition or a $7.99 standard edition. And they say the only difference between the two print editions is the standard color uses a thinner paper stock than the premium edition. And that usually will mean that the colors are much less vivid, but it also means that the price does drop a little bit per page because the paper is a little cheaper to use.
All right, then. Then let's head into the Battle Bards, the fantasy audio for table gamers Kickstarter. And what is this all about?
This is a pretty cool Kickstarter that is out. And this is something that I don't do personally in my games that I DM for, but I'm kind of thinking about starting to do this. It's basically they're helping you use audio to enhance your games. They have professional audio, and they have everything from characters to mood settings to sound effects that you can drop in your game as you're sitting at your table. And they are trying to get this kickstarted right now. They have over 500 pieces of audio as it stands, which more is going to come. And they have what they're calling their mixer, which will allow you to create a playlist. You can also take bits and pieces from one thing and combine them to tell a story. It really just will make your games just come alive. And the creators on the Kickstart page state this: Spotify meets tabletop RPGs. BattleBards is the most expansive tabletop audio library and tools ever assembled to make your campaigns simply epic. And everything is accessible straight in your browser. And we will, later on in the show, have an interview that I conducted with 2 of the members of the Kickstarter team. So if you're interested in hearing more about this, stick around in the show, and you can find out all about the Battle Bards.
And it looks like currently they still have 23 days to go, and they're about a little bit past halfway to their goal.
Yes, I'm pretty sure the way, because I have been, ever since I put this post up, I've been kind of watching this Kickstarter, and it seems like every day they're inching closer and closer to the goal. So word of the Kickstarter, I should say, is starting to spread. So we will keep an eye on it, and we'll see what happens with them.
All right, very well then. Let's then go into our week in DDO. Drac, what were you up to?
I was up to the temple. Temple. That is all I did this week, actually. I took my level 13 rogue, and basically I was just running around. I wasn't, actually trying to complete the temple. I was just running around doing the slayers and seeing if I could get any reds to pop for me so I could kill them and try to loot the chest to try to get that silly dagger that I want, but alas, it eludes me still. So we'll see what happens with that, and then I'll let you talk about what we did together in the temple with my level 7 rogue. But outside of DDO, I did plan a little more for my Ravenloft 5e campaign. And as the plan stands now, I should kill the party off this Saturday. Our next meeting is Saturday, and all my players will die then. So that's the plan as of right now.
What if they killed Strahd or something like that?
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen?
No, you got to remember, they split themselves, so they're going to pay for splitting the party.
All right.
Some punishments shall happen. So
and now you've had time to plan what to do in that section where they found themselves.
Oh yes, yes I have. Insert evil laugh. So I will report back on that hopefully next Monday, because as I said, the plan is now on Saturday we're going to be running this again to finish this up.
All right then. Then we'll then go into my week, and first with Draculetta, I was running my level 7 wizard into the Temple of Elemental Evil, where we finished up level 1, we finished up level 2, we got all 4 keys from the temples, we went in, went down, reached the boss room, and then instantly got killed.
Yeah, instantly is an understatement. It was... And, I realize there is like a mechanic involved in there, and we kind of could figure that mechanic out just by looking at the room. I'm going to kind of be a little spoiler free here for people that haven't done it yet that want to do it. There's a little mechanic involved in that fight, and we couldn't even get to the point where we could even do the mechanic. I mean, he spawned the stuff, and we were just dead instantly.
Yeah.
And it was like, what the heck just happened?
Whap.
Yeah, it was insane. But I would like to actually finish that at some point. But man, I don't know, that last, and that's just the boss in the first dungeon, or the first part of it. That's not even the big boss, so I can't even imagine what the big boss fight is like.
Oh, the big boss fight. Yeah. I'm sure that is going to be... I'm trying to think, I'm trying to remember if the damsels got that far.
They did. They actually completed it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I saw them running through part 2 because I was watching their episode this week. Well, actually, I think it was an episode from a couple weeks back, and where they went through part 2, and so they managed to get through the second boss.
Yeah,
I mean, they were 3.
Well, see, that's true, and they are the damsels, so.
Well, yes, a little bit easier than when you have just a rogue and a wizard.
True.
All right. Now, I also took my wizard rogue in, my 5/7. He's the one who was doing it for my YouTube channel. I completed level 1 of the dungeon, and I walk into level 2, did the early part of level 2, and instantly got squished like a bug. Okay, not instantly, not as fast as Pat there, but before I reached the first of the bosses, I pretty much got squished, and that's the point where I decided that I think I've given an idea what the temple is like to my audience. So I terminated the series at that point, and I will try to do it with other characters on my own without recording it. But that was it. 6 episodes for my Wizard Rogue series, showing you what kind of things can happen in the Temple of Elemental Evil, and usually it's die.
Yeah, that sounds about like the temple.
Yeah. Now, I did a round of the Castle Ravenloft board game outside DDO, and I was running the quest, the Final Transformation, and I have to admit that I thought that this particular adventure could not be soloed, because it's one where you got this NPC you're carrying around, and the NPC will change sides if you're not in the same square, or if there's a monster in the same square. So all sorts of things can go wrong. And I tried it once with 2 characters, and absolutely everything went wrong in there. But I would decide to go into there, try it with just the cleric. Cleric is the easiest one, probably the solo stuff in there due to the healing abilities. I went in there, and I even had a string there where I went something like 4 straight turns where I couldn't roll a hit to save my life. I kept rolling 1s, 2s, and 3s. And despite all that trouble, I still managed to just squeak out a win at the end.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes. Now, it did help that when I was in the final one on the next to the last round, I knew I had it when I was drawing. I said, okay, what horrible monster will I get? I drew a gargoyle. And the rule was for the monsters during that final part is put it anywhere within 2 hexes of you. Now, if you remember how a gargoyle works in Castle Ravenloft, a gargoyle two tiles away from you is going to just sit there.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I remember right, they just sit there. They don't do anything.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I drew the gargoyle, and it's okay, good, boom. Next turn is going to win.
Yeah, hey, you lucked out there then.
So that worked well enough. So therefore I survived that particular one, the final trans. Of course, that means next I have to do the one with the Draco Lich, and that does not sound like it's going to be an easy solo one, because I want to see how am I going to kill this big monstrosity with 20 hit points.
Good luck with that.
I think right now what I have to do is get him down to 5. No, get him down to 10, run to the laboratory as fast as I can, and when I get to the laboratory, break the, whatever you call the phalacantry, or whatever you call those things that they just have. Yeah.
Yeah, now, are you actually, you're doing this like true solo where you're only running 1 character through?
Yeah, this is just the cleric.
Okay, I didn't know if you were just running like 2 characters yourself, but you're actually...
No. When I say solo, I mean
you actually mean
1 character, because because playing with two characters is not soloing the dungeon. It's playing with two characters.
Right, yeah, that's why I just wanted to clarify that you actually are doing it solo. So
yeah. All right. We did not have any donations, but if you'd like to help DDO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards, including a mention on DDO Players News, or even to be able to be a guest host with us. And we are approaching a major reward milestone where you will be able to give away for DDO players.
Dun dun dun. Here's a hint. It might end in a P, but that's all I'll say.
It might end in a P.
I'm sure you can figure it out. Here's the hint.
Right. So we're getting near a milestone. So if you wish, you could look at that. So let's look at what else we've got here. We have no iTunes reviews, but if you would like to give us one, we would much appreciate it. Fortunately, we do have a featured comment. And Indrik left a comment on taking a look at Update 25, Reign of Elemental Evil Loot. The quarterstaff looks extremely nice for a thief acrobat. So you're an assassin, so you're saying, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I still want the daggerbat. Yeah, that quarterstaff would be good for a thief acrobat. He is absolutely correct in his statement.
And we also have an email from Carrie Mack, who actually, it's not an email, it's a tweet. That's great episode 27. I especially enjoyed the Ravenloft story from Drac.
Oh, you'll love next week's episode then, probably.
You're already predicting it.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see what my idiot players do. I'm sure they'll do something.
Well, yes, but they have a way of stumbling into victory.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, they have more luck than Randall Thor.
They do. They are, like I said in that episode 27, they are the luckiest players on the face of the earth.
All right, then. If you wish to email us, you can email us at podcast@ddoplayers.com. You can also follow us at Twitter, The Players Alliance @PlayersAlly, DDO Players @DDO Draculetta @Draculetta_72, and Pineleaf @PineleafNeedles. The Players Alliance has 3 live shows every single week. On Mondays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. On Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Guild Wars Players News. And on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Locho Players News. And you can join us for our live shows by going to ddoplayers.com/live. And now, everyone, it's time to listen to the Battle Bards as they interview with Draculetta.
Hey everybody, it's Draculetta from DDO Players News, and I am here with a couple of the guys that are involved in the Kickstarter for the Battle Bards that we recently talked about on the webpage. If you guys can go ahead and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hey guys, I'm Alex Jarzabinski, Audio Director of Battle Bards.
And I am Michael Adams, Co-Community Manager for Battle Bards, and Alex's pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Are we going to get some behind the scenes here today, maybe?
Oh, most likely.
All right. As tradition on our podcast, we always like to ask our guests how they got involved into Dungeons and Dragons and RPGs. So it's your turn for that. So Alex, you want to go ahead and start?
Sure. So I actually started from the video game side of things. Hopefully this will be a blast from the past for a lot of people, but Might and Magic was kind of a series of video games that was very D&D-esque, fantasy, medieval fantasy. And it was when, desktops started to become commercially available. My dad bought a Tandy 8086 and picked up a game that he thought I would like. And with it being so similar to D&D, I mean, I just dived into the land of Varn from D&D 1, Might and Magic 1, full force. In fact, back in those days, especially with Might and Magic, you could send in your final score at the end, and they actually send you a certificate of what you ranked on it. And with Might and Magic 1 and 2, I think I ranked number 1 and number 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because my score was just so stupid high. But so, as a huge Might and Magic fan, my parents once took me to the mall and left me at a bookstore for a while, and I saw this blue softcover a D&D book, I picked it up and I started seeing might and magic in that book. And it hit me like, well, wait a second. So I'm going to be able to make my own might and magic type of world and play that with my friends. Like, this is the greatest thing I have ever seen. So I bought a couple books and, well, the rest is history.
Yeah, let me just point out that's a strong word there, Alex. Friends. We're more like your lackeys that you get to torture.
Lackeys. I prefer like favored minions at the very least.
Favorite minions that you get to torture every weekend. But yeah, I think Gary Gygax is very happy that you found it to be exactly what he wanted it to be.
Just the torture mechanics for people on the weekend.
Yeah. Just like, I can create whatever I want and do whatever I want. I think that's basically what he had in mind when he did the whole thing. But I'm tangent. Coming back to the main focus here.
That's okay. I was just going to say, as you know, on the podcast, I've talked about how I DM myself, and all of my friends will agree with that because I tend to torture them too when I DM for them. So,
oh man,
it works well.
Kindred spirits.
Exactly. All right, Michael, how about you? How'd you get started in D&D?
I started a little bit differently than Alex. I don't remember Tandy, but I am older than Alex. But so, I kind of came in. I actually played Zanzertem's Dungeon with a good friend of mine that I met in junior high school, 7th grade. He made fun of me for what I wore on the first day. We've been friends ever since. Went over to his house one day after school. We rode our bikes over. He's like, yeah, I got this game. Let's play it. And we played Zanzertem's Dungeon. And then that Christmas, I got the deluxe edition black box with the red dragon and the rider with the axe. And then I started picking up. Yeah, we did that. And then right after that, I believe it was, oh my God, Dragon's Den was the next big box. And then you had Goblin's Lair. And so we just started buying all these boxes and started creating our own world, started creating our own cities, and just, that's basically from there. The D&D Cyclopedia came out, and we just ate that up, and then AD&D came out, and Hollow World, Spelljammer. Then their superheroes came out, the Ninja Turtles came out. It was just like, oh my God, we just went crazy, and then just kept going, and then through kind of a fluke of luck, I ran into these guys. A good friend of mine had found Alex's group on Wizards.com, the forums. They were looking for a player. He joined them, my friend, and he's like, dude, you've got to play with these guys. They're so brutal. They almost killed my character in one hit, and they play with minis and like terrain and music, and oh man, it's just awesome. I came, I watched the session. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. When do I start? Well, what kind of character? Alex is like, oh, great. Yeah, sure. Here, make a character, and haven't looked back since.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into the good stuff now. You guys recently put up a Kickstarter called Battle Bards. Can you tell me how that came together and what made you want to create the tool that you have wonderfully created?
Wow. Sure. I can talk about the tools. Mike, I think you have a really good narrative of how Battle Bards kind of came together. You want to give it a shot?
How long is this podcast?
Yeah, right. We have to give him the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, it's gonna have to be small print then. The way it came about was, Alex has been using audio in his games for many, many, many years, and then he and one of the other members of OCGG kind of had this idea: what if we could create our own custom audio? And then, through a series of events, we got the ability, or we attained the ability, to crowdsource audio for anything we want. And so we started kind of delving into, let's do like a Dwarven temple. And so Alex put together a primer and gave direction to the artists, and we came up with, I don't even know what the short list was, but basically what Alex does is he'll go through all the submissions and then pick the very, very best of them. And it literally was like every single one of them transferred over to the short list. So we were going through that and we're like, forget it. Let's just kick in some extra money, buy all of them because we love them all. And then we started doing, what we could. There's 7 of us, so we chip in, $25-$50 each, and we could, spend a couple $100 to get sound effects or a soundscape or a voiceover or, some, music. And so we started building our library. Then we found out about Kickstarter. We ran a Realm Sound, and we were funded on the second go, and we had a problem with fighting over which submission we all wanted. Everyone kind of had their own idea of how this was supposed to be, and so we kind of argued over which submission would win. And from that, we were like, what if we could just offer all these tracks to everyone, because every single one of these is good, and they're going to speak to different gamers. So one gamer's going to want this, and one guy's going to want this, and one guy's going to want this. What if we could do that? And that's kind of how Battle Bards formed. It was the idea of offering a huge library, every artist submission, instead of just the one that we could afford.
Yeah, so that's a great whirlwind or tornado tour there, Mike, of how we really got started. So, at its most general, what is Battle Bards? It is a massive, massive library of professionally made music, sound effects, soundscapes, monsterscapes, NPC scripts, languages that gamers are going to be able to peruse. And what I mean by professional is, as Mike kind of alluded to, we crowdsourced a lot of our work, which is one of our kind of trade secrets. And we work with talent that normally works on national work. So the example that I love to bring up of one of the artists that we're looking forward that we've worked with and we're looking forward to working with in the future is one that's worked on Darkwing Duck from Disney's Afternoon.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah. I think she voiced one of Gizmo Duck's associates or something. I forgot who it is, and I gotta look it up. So I mean,
That's
we
amazing.
work. Yeah, we also work with one of the voiceovers, which I hope to hear, is the Weaponsmith, which was Joe J. Thomas, who does the voice for the Skeleton King in Diablo 3. So we're not messing around with the talent we're working with. We seriously make sure that we work with some primo talent. And what we usually tell people in these podcasts is we are so fervent on the quality of our audio. We basically tell people we're pretty confident in saying that we offer the best fantasy audio in the world. And we stand by that. And I think when you listen to some of the stuff, you'll realize that not only the talent do we work with is the best, but kind of the formula that we go about sourcing the audio is dialed in very well. So, back to the little secret sauce that we do is we don't have a set roster of artists, and not to leak into, other stuff, but as far as what makes us different from a lot of the other sources of audio out there, there's various things, and we can get into it if you want. But I really want to stress the fact that we do believe that we have seriously the best audio out there. There's a lot of other alternatives, but I think we do things slightly different that really makes it stand out.
Since you brought up that merchant and the weaponsmith, we can go ahead and listen to that, and we can give the audience just a little sample of what that sounds like.
That'd be great.
Awesome.
Well, greetings, sir. I can tell you have a keen eye for fine weaponry. These here are the finest weapons ever wrought by mortal hand. Heavy battle axes from the dwarven holds of the Iron Hill. Deadly leaf-backed arrow, the elven kingdom of Selene. Folded steel swords from the fabled forges of Reldeven in Alisa. Each piece is a testament to the murderous innovation of every race that has ever practiced the art of war.
Now, I can imagine your characters walking up to a weaponsmith, and instead of, me as a DM saying, there's this weaponsmith standing here, they hear that. That would be amazing, and it would bring so much more to the tabletop experience, I think.
You nailed it. That's exactly it. One of the super exciting things that we're doing here with Battle Bards is we want to bring in professional voiceovers into tabletop game. And at first, whenever we talk to people about it, it seems super counterintuitive, right? Because, people are going to say, well, what are the chances that this NPC, what I need him to say, is going to match with what you guys have? That's not what we're doing. We're providing, essentially think of it as an NPC generator. It's something in which the DM doesn't have to have a voice or the accents or backdrop
exactly
ready-made. He could just take something off the shelf, exactly what you said, and just be like, okay, so weaponsmith, and we're going to have a huge selection to choose from. You can just say, okay, here, and you can just start playing it, and that has the context, that has the flavor, the atmosphere that you don't have to strive to do as a GM. Let it do it for you. And that's what we're super excited about. And then we can talk about how the mixer could even further get additional mileage out of these voiceovers. But thanks so much for bringing that up. And we're super excited to see how voiceovers, especially professionally made voiceovers, can find a place in gaming.
And as you know, a side note here, I have never used sound drops, music, or whatever in any of my tabletop games. But after looking at your Kickstarter and listening to some of these things, I think I'm going to start because it almost brings like a video game mentality to your tabletop setting, I think.
Absolutely. And, it's always great talking to DMs that have all kinds of different experiences. I've been DMing for 20 years, and I think for 15 of those, I was heavily using audio in my games. And the example that we like to tell GMs that perhaps maybe haven't considered really bringing in audio into their games is we like to attribute it to listening to or watching, rather, the Star Wars opening text crawl without John Williams. So, I mean,
it just wouldn't be the same,
Exactly.
No,
Or the other example that's on YouTube is the in New Hope, the award ceremony, and that the video has like more than 1 million hits. The actual award ceremony without John Williams again. And the reason it gets so many hits is because it's so funny, and it's so funny because it falls so flat. It's just two guys and a Wookiee walking down and receiving medallions with really nothing else going on. And we see it the same way with gaming.
Yeah, I mean, Alex will tell you he has a neat little story where the first time he kind of introduced audio into gaming, but it really does pick up a scene. It really does change I would say even the attitudes of the players themselves. It definitely drives them in a certain direction. If you want a more somber, you can play something a little low key or very kind of horror driven. So it's like, oh my God, this is like from, such and such a movie, like Dracula. Like I know that song. People will identify with the music and go, guys, the stuff just hit the fan. So it's just like, we need to calm down and you go, let's get serious, So it really does say a lot for driving the direction of the players. Like if you want them to kind of settle down, or if you want them to be a little bit more, high energy, you play that Willow on the cart chase, and that just gets everyone pumped up, So that's that's how we see it.
Yeah, so as Mike mentioned, not only does it help a GM, audio is another tool, and it helps GMs largely manage the emotional states and direct the energy of the players. So I have this story in which how I discovered that a long time ago when I first discovered audio in gaming. When we were teenagers, I was GMing a game. We just came back from dinner. We're all hopped up on way too much soda, and I had a problem. I'm like, shoot, the joke, the fart jokes are flying, and we're just bouncing off the walls. And we were coming back to the game in a very dramatic scene that was in some ways very similar to the scene in Braveheart. And if I can take you back, it was that scene where Morin, William Wallace's wife, was just killed. And he was coming back on horseback to take revenge. And that the theme that plays is called Revenge. And I thought, well, here we go. I need to get my player's head back in the game pretty dramatically. So I played that theme. And immediately, these teenage guys go from just punching each other because they just have so much energy to at the edge of their seats like, oh my God, I remember that. And that emotional connection that they had to that scene is brought to the table. And on a dime, I was able to turn that emotional state where I needed it, and the scene played out really, really well. And that's the power of audio. Whether you use it to kind of manage players' emotional states or just to accent stuff, like the disintegration spell sound effect. It's one thing to tell your players, well, the BBG cast disintegrate, give me your fort save. It's another thing to say, okay, well, the BBG cast spell, you play this sound effect, and your players are like, oh my God, like what just happened? And they go, yeah, now give me Or in this case, talking to a devil, which would be the infernal language that is angry or disgusted with you. So again, just, not all of us can do voices. I certainly can't do voices very well. So instead of saying, blah, 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 the devil speaks to you in a deriding way, I just be like, and you hear him say this.
Yeah. And then you ask your players who speaks Infernal, and they're like, "Holy crap, that's Infernal."
We're all gonna die.
No one speaks that. It's just
Yeah.
like it completely changes people's perspective.
And I know you kind of touched on it before, but there are other kind of tools similar to this. So what makes you guys different?
Absolutely. So yeah, it touched on it a little bit before. So I guess first and foremost, it's how we source this audio. So we don't have a set roster. Every track that we accept into the BattleBards library is essentially fought over. Every audio needs to be auditioned for. So we'll start with a creative brief, which I'll put together, and that's typically done through kind of doing a deep dive into the mythos, into the very structure of what we want to do, and leaning on various types of gaming system. Because here's the thing. When we put together, say, an orc track, I want the average gamer who has experiences in different platforms and, kind of has watched different movies. I need it that as soon as that track plays in a couple seconds, the average gamer goes, "Yep, that's orc, that's a dwarf, or that's dark elf, or that's that's the other." So a lot of research is done into the creative brief to make sure that this is specifically designed for fantasy gaming. Then we go into putting this out to audition, and as the auditions come in, I will help all the artists kind of refine their tracks and make sure that we're presenting the best auditions possible. And then towards the end, about 3 weeks, we will then shortlist. I'll go through and kind of present. Back then, at least for Realm Sound, our first Kickstarter, it was the Orange County Gaming Group. I'll present with a short list, and then we will do a bare knuckle fight on which ones we want to bring into the library. And I mean, I know it's kind of tongue in cheek, but let Mike tell you, it gets pretty ugly. Because here's the thing. I mean, you have a short list. You have anywhere from 4 to 12 tracks, and they're all amazing.
I can imagine.
Right? So, you have all these amazing tracks, and especially for Realm Sound, where we could only choose one of each, when you let everyone listen to it, and everyone, again, has their own backgrounds of what they think for, like, what dwarves need to sound like, you become emotionally invested in the track. And then when we can only choose one, it gets bad. I'll let Mike tell you. We fight over it.
We really do. It really does get into shouting arguments, sometimes throwing stuff. Punches haven't actually been thrown, but it's come close. Very heated arguments over what track is going to get picked and whatnot. Because we are gamers and we're very passionate about what we do and how we feel. And so that kind of leaks over into when we make these decisions. It's like, well, you're just a complete idiot for picking that one. That's just dumb. Why did you pick that? It's obviously this one over here. So it's just like, and then gaming with the same group for, over time, you just kind of develop these kind of things where everybody kind of, has, alliances and stuff like that. Alex is always, just beating me up. So, on any side whenever he's a player. So it's just like,
oh my God, I love this track.
Yeah.
And so, I can imagine having your players walk say, you have reached the inner temple, and as soon as they go into the doors, you start playing, and then you just describe what's going on.
Exactly. You nailed it. I mean, this is really the evocative feel that you get in movies and you get in video games when you have that score. So, one of the reasons that this piece is so beautiful is you've got the deep brass that gives that powerful tradition, that grandness to the score. You've got the hammers hitting the anvil, and how much more iconic do you really want than that? I mean, even especially for something like a temple, you could see that's going to be part of the religious ceremonies, as many of the mythos in dwarves, whether you go, almost any genre that you're looking at, is the soul forger, that they're the artisans, they're the miners. And again, it doesn't even have to be hammer and anvil. It could be a pick on a wall, but that's iconic to the dwarf culture. Mora Din being voiced, which again in a lot of mythos is the soul forger, is kind of their god, their patron. The chanting, the heavy male chanting again gives that power to it, and that's why we fell in love with this. And as Mike mentioned, imagine, just imagine that you got like 6, and they're all this good. And we couldn't just choose one. We said we need to create a business. We need to create an engine where we're going to give gamers all of them, because it's too painful just doing one.
Yeah, it's really hard telling, artists, sorry, we kind of picked this one because it's like, we really like what you have, and if we had an unlimited amount of money, we'd just buy them all. But unfortunately, we don't. So we do have to choose kind of what we can offer or what we have. And so that's kind of why Battle Bards came about. It's like, let's try and figure out a way to offer everything to everyone, to kind of make that work. But this is, I mean, as soon as you played it, we all just shut up and just started listening to it. I mean, it's
I actually didn't mean for that to happen, but it was kind of good that it did, though. Cause
it just has that power. It has that resonance.
It just sucks you in, and you want to listen to it, and you can just you can see in your mind's eye what you're hearing. I mean,
exactly.
You can see it's like, oh my God, I'm walking around a dwarf temple here.
Exactly. And I'm so glad. Thank you so much for that evocative opening when you're like, I could see myself telling my players, you walk into the grand hall of the Soul Forger, and you have that playing in the background, and your players, they're going to be able to dial in that energy. And just like you said, in your mind's eye, now they're seeing 80-foot tall statues of granite on each side of some of the paragons of dwarf culture. And, that's what we're going for. Another great one, if you want to play, if we have time, is Druid's Grove by Richard Daskaz, one of our heavy-hitting artists. And again, we don't have a set roster, but you will see a lot of the same artists coming over and over again, not because we hand them anything. Again, I want to stress every track is earned, but these guys continuously produce gold. And Druid's Grove has that same evocative feel to it, which kind of really helped it to stand out. So it kind of starts off slow, but we have some major accents. I mean, obviously, the life, the animal, the fauna.
I was going to bring that up. I like how there's just like ambient sounds going on too, like with the music. So it then again, it just kind of draws you in even more.
Right. So here it's a very particular, this is what we call scene X setting. So this is typically for a very specific type of narration or sequence in which the players are coming into a Druid Grove, and you could use any type of an emotional state. So solemn, ritualistic, sad, perhaps something kind of depressing or something sad has happened in the game. And the energy in this track is really going to suck you in if you can give it another 30 seconds or so. But Here's the thing though, there's going to be many more Druid Groves than just this track. So we have lighthearted ones. We have ones that doesn't have any specific energy to it. It has more of a soundscape feel. This is just one example of a Druid Grove. And I think we are going to bring like a half dozen others, but let's see how this track kind of plays out. Okay, now we're going to be picking up here. So maybe an epic spell's being casted, a gathering, something epic is about to happen.
Which it definitely feels that way. It just, because of how your music is starting to peak a little bit here. And you're thinking,
here we go. And that's the Druid. He's one with nature. He's beyond words. He doesn't need words. He's summoning the power of nature itself from his connection to the natural world. And that's why there's no lyrics. Here we go. Now we're going to dip down. And you better hold on to your pants.
That's just amazing.
Here we go. Hang on.
I love how it just keeps building and building and building.
So yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, I get shivers every time I hear this track. I mean, the reason we selected it is we felt that Richard captured the subtle and raw power of the druid. You know, what I like to do is, whether it's simply going to be showcasing a druid grove or kind of a ritual or an epic event happening, like a druid casting not resurrect, it's a reincarnation. It kind of has this deep feel to it. And instead of just saying, well, the druid casts reincarnation, you could say, well, here's a ritual, and you could hear the animals. I mean, you even heard like a dinosaur. You heard something huge in the background. The animals kind of come together to assist the druid in this epic spell being casted that culminates into the crash of thunder. So sorry, I mean, I'm drooling because I get super passionate when I talk about
fine,
this.
yeah.
Can you guess which one Alex's favorite is?
No, we could
Just take
not
a
at
wild
all.
stab. Just take a wild stab there.
But and here's the beauty: with an engine like Battle Bards, there's just going to be more than that. If you don't think a Druid Grove is going to fit that way, or you can't really plug this particular incarnation of it, there's going to be others, and we're going to be incentivizing artists to continually add to this, so you have other incarnations of what we feel like a Druid Grove. But thanks so much for playing that. It's really rare that we have an opportunity to actually hear these pieces and talk about them. So, I mean, for me, I can't be more grateful that we're taking that time to actually showcase these pieces.
Well, and they need to be showcased because they are just amazing. I mean, and I am not just, saying that because you guys are on, the podcast here. I'm just really, just everything I've heard is just super, super amazing, and it's very professionally done, and just well done to your whole team for actually thinking of this project and trying to get it to come to light.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. We even have great talent that has put together some incredible lyrics. Halfling Camp is amazing. Yeah. It's actually the artist who we selected to work with actually sent me the lyrics, and we made sure that they're specific to halflings, and just very fun, very lighthearted. It's just such an amazing piece. Werewolf Transformation. Yeah, here, let's hear it. It's really fun.
Definitely has that halfling feel for sure.
Now you rascals with your bellies full of pie, and listen to this tale of woe with the hero smoking high. Hey, he's a master of concealment and an adept at disguise. With heroes his many seeking fast and desperate but for life. He's slain many a villain.
Okay, I gotta say, I love the "with your bellies full of pie" line. that is just amazing. I mean, that's a halfling right there. I mean, that's just
exactly.
Awesome.
So that zest for life. You also hear, as the story unfolds, you hear the courage of the halflings, and just the love for the simple pleasures is kind of really what resonated from all the mythos out there of halflings. And we wanted to make sure that we had a piece that really conveyed that happy-go-lucky, let's enjoy life to the fullest type of halfling mentality.
And I think it was Michael that brought up the werewolf female transformation.
Oh yeah, that's brutal. Okay. So before we do that, let's be clear. So we're making sure that when we do evil stuff, it's not Disney evil. I mean, we're not kidding around here. So the werewolf, as a werewolf goes from human to wolf or the hybrid, I told the artists from the auditions, like, guys, we're not sugarcoating this. I mean, I want to hear bones snapping into place, ligaments being torn and reformed. So let's listen to it. But I got to tell you, this is not sugarcoating the vileness of a werewolf transformation.
Oh, wow. I had not heard this before. Holy crap.
So what really cinched it, what this artist did so well, was I loved, and by the way, credit goes to artist ETPA. What really took it over the top is you get to hear a scream in hybrid form as the vocal cords are going from human to wolf. You hear this howl that's not quite human, not quite wolf, and that was that level of detail. We're like, yep, that's it. We've got to have that one. And again, even if if this is too brutal for you, we have queued to bring in another dozen, I don't even know how many other werewolf transformations that's going to capture it in a different way. But boy, getting that reaction from you, oh my God, that is amazing.
Yeah,
and that's what we're going for.
Pretty hardcore right there. So, and like you said, that's not Disney evil for sure.
No, that's not Disney evil.
And I know on your Kickstarter page, you guys talk about your mixer. Can you maybe bring that up a little bit and tell us about that and how you picture your players, I should say, using the mixer in their games?
Sure, well, Mike. I've been taking too much. You wanna do it?
No, yeah. Please let me talk.
The floor is yours.
So the way that this kind of whole thing came about was Alex is, again, he's been using audio in a very long time, so he's kind of gotten used to having 5 different audio players open, queued, and ready so that he can seamlessly go from one window to the next window to the next window. But now with the introduction of Slim Jim commercials that you can't, go through, and Geico commercials and ads that you just can't, skip through, sometimes when he's building up to this moment and he clicks on it and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, step into a Slim Jim, it's like, okay, guys, that's not it. No, it's not Randy Savage Man, but he's like, give it a minute and go. So we thought, what if we could develop a tool where you just can play this audio, you can stack it, you can layer it, and you can crop it to fit any situation you want. For instance, if you don't want the whole voiceover of a tavern keeper or a weaponsmith or whatnot, you can actually, it's very intuitive, with a click of a button, drag and crop that to, it could just be, oh, hello, what do you guys want to do? It could literally be that simple. Or you can layer spells, so you can have subordinate tracks. So you can play the Druid Grove, and if you want to just sprinkle in like lightning bolts or fireballs or whatever you want to put in there, you can actually attach those at certain points during that music track and have it play at various intervals if you want to take the time to set that all up. And it's very easy. It's just a click of a button and you're done. Drag it over. You can set the volume level on all of that. So that's another thing that Battle Bars is going to be offering, is this very seamless way of putting together a scene, or scoring a scene, if you will, to the way that you want it.
And to be clear, this is all done online, correct?
Yeah, so it's all done through a browser. And yeah, so Mike brought up great point. So the 2 major tools that we're going to be releasing is the soundboard, which Mike touched on, which, look, basically what the soundboard does is it makes the use of audio in game more practical. Because, again, you're not going to have multiple media players up. You shouldn't have, 6 different YouTube, stuff up. The energy falls off the table if you can't seamlessly get the audio in. So the soundboard lets GMs customize all the playlists that they want in any kind of order they want, and it brings all the audio that they need for a gaming session right there, ready to go at any time. The other tool that we're touching on is this mixer, which basically lets you take all this audio and just expand it a millionfold with all the now things that you can do with it. And the thing is that some of the feedback that we've gotten is, well, now when you guys talk about mixer, I'm going to get intimidated. I'm not an audio engineer. As Mike pointed out, you don't need to be. If you can click and drag, you can mix anything you want. So with the example that Mike brought, maybe we want more thunder crashes in there. Well, we have a lightning bolt spell. You can crop the lightning bolt spell to not have the wind up. You could literally just have, there we go. So these sound effects are designed kind of in a modular way, where you have the spells, wind up, the blast, and then the rumbling. Maybe I just want the blast and rumbling. I just want a stroke of lightning to come out. So with click and drag, I could take out the wind up. Now I've got just lightning bolt sound effect, just the thunder crash. And I can now sprinkle those in to a music track. And again, it's literally click and drag. You don't have to worry about anything else, and you can position where you want it to occur. Once you hit hit play, the mix is going to be sorted, and then you have all these layers happening. So you can have a mix which is just 2 tracks. You can have something as complicated as 15, fireball tracks coming in as a barrage. I mean, there's no limit to what you can do. And then to go even further on how exciting it is to have this mixer, you're going to be able to mix with your own audio.
Oh,
so think
wow.
Right? So think about that for a second. So, for example, you could have, if you have this great, exciting, like large town type of track, you could have that go on the background of the weaponsmith voiceover. So now you could even bring in the stuff that you like to use with some of the battle bard stuff to have now unique experiences and immersive experiences for your gamers.
That is amazing.
Awesome.
I did not realize you could bring your own tracks into. That is wow. And you said basically it's through a browser, and if you can point and click, anybody should be able to do this.
You
That's
can
right.
edit it very easily, and it's very fast. And you can even, I think we even have independent volume control. So if you want this a little louder and this a little less loud, you have that option as well, even on the subordinate tracks.
Yeah, so the example that I like to bring is on one of the siege scenes that I did for my players a while ago. They were on the ramparts, and a siege was coming. So to simulate catapult pitch, I used the fireball track. And I cropped out the beginning, the spell beginning, and just had the toss, blast, and rumbling. Then I had like 15 of those. And then what I did is I adjusted the volume, again, with just a little slider, to have the perception of depth. So some, they could hear the impact, some far away, and some literally at their feet. And you simply do that by adjusting the volume. And I had that all pegged to our Orcs on the War March soundscape. And then it kind of had the whole narrative scene kind of play out.
And as we're getting ready to wrap up here, I did want to play. You sent along one called the Monsterscape.
Ooh,
and I
yeah.
think this is one of my favorite ones that you. Well, I don't know. I really like that werewolf now though, because I didn't listen to all of these before
This is my baby. This is my baby. I love this. So
you want to talk about this a little bit before I play?
Mike, go ahead. Go ahead. Talk about it, Mike.
Had to feature this one too.
I just was like, you know what? I know that there's copyrights out there and stuff like that, but I just had to get around it. I had to hear what after working with these artists for as long as we have. I'm like, I want to know what they envision this. Alex put the primer together. We did it, and the final product. As soon as we heard this, we're like, done. We're done. This is it. And it's just amazing. And with monsters, we have 2. There's a passive and there's in combat. And this is both of them are absolutely amazing and terrifying.
I think the laugh sets it off.
Right? Yeah, that's your party dying, dude.
Yeah. I mean, this is just, I can just imagine. Comment. You can play it just thinking, complete crap. I mean,
we attacked this thing?
Yeah, that's just...
Over and over.
Yeah, so I mean that's
that week though.
So again, we really wanted to capture the essence of Beholder.
Hi, Monster.
Yeah, Hi, Monster. So
everybody can tell what you're fighting there, but yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the whipping of the eye stalks. You have the various different spell effects, the laughter. I really wanted to make sure that the laughter, the groans kind of really sound like they're coming from a huge toothy-filled maw. And all these different aspects, like you said, need to go into this. So you play this and the average gamer goes, oh my God, I think I know what the hell this is. and the conjunction of, and if you have the Beholder Mini and you have these other evocative props that you're using game really flow together really, really well. And that's definitely one of our favorites.
I mean, just seeing the Beholder Mini like in the middle of your dungeon or your map, wherever you're at, and then hearing that would be terrifying.
Your PCs are going to turn around, dude. I'm not going over there.
No way I'm going in that room. I don't like the sound of what's going on in there.
But yeah, we also have a passive one for that, and basically it's really good for like if you want to have like the rogue, if he sneaks up and he does a listen check or something like that. That's kind of how we envision that being used particularly. Or if you want to just say, okay, guys, this is going to be a particularly rough session. If you want to give them a heads up that maybe they shouldn't go over here, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how what the players are. If they're like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to walk in there. Oh yeah, I don't care. Yeah, it sounds creepy, but I'm gonna go kill it. Okay, buddy. See ya. It's like climbing down that like on your last podcast where they were climbing down that Ravenloft wall, and it's just like yeah, they're not really supposed to go down there, so I'm just start making stuff up. I'm just gonna start throwing stuff at them, and so I'll split the party. I don't care.
Well, I so could have used this for that too, because I mean, I'm just like I'm just sitting here thinking it's like, well, at that point I could have played this, and I could have had this going, and then they really would have been like, I'm not going in there because I hear what's behind that door, and it's like,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah, it's this is just amazing. So, can you tell me where you're at on your Kickstarter as of right now? As we're recording this?
Yeah, so we're currently at 56%, which is awesome. We've been live for, I think, a little under a week with 57 backers. So let's keep this going, guys. For those of you out there that just really kind of love creating as immersive an experience in tabletop gaming as possible, we really do believe that audio is this next natural evolution. We do think that we kind of have dialed in the right formula. We have an army of talent that continuously has to strive to get in this library. One of the things that we can't stress is, again, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of unbelievably amazing fantasy audio out there, and a lot of props need to go to those folks. But we think that with a lot of the way that we source it, the fact that every track has to be earned, we want to try to cultivate an image or a brand that every piece that you hear at BattleBard has been agonizingly scrutinized. It's been every second, literally, is looked at to make sure that it is pushing through a certain concept, a gaming creature or location or class or what have you. And I mean, to be quite frank, I mean, I'll tell you guys, from inception, from creative brief to final recording, each music track or soundscape or pack of sound effects is about 50 man-hours of work. We take our job very seriously, and we want to convey that being a part of this library, rest assured that every piece will be of the highest quality that we can possibly manage.
And can you tell us how everybody can find your Kickstarter and also follow you on any social media pages that you're on?
Mike, you're on.
So we have a Twitter account that we are basically hovering around lately, obviously because of the Kickstarter. You can find us on Kickstarter. Just search BattleBards, and we'll pop up. We have a Facebook page, which we have content on as well. BattleBards.com. I mean, you can go ahead and go there and give us your. It's not quite there. We're still working on it. It's under construction, but if you give us your email, then we will obviously let you know when it's up and running and all that good stuff. And then, of course, we have a YouTube channel, and we have a Twitch channel that we, on Saturday, play. We Twitch our main game to show people how we use the audio in our games and to basically just broadcast our game. And that's twitch.tv/BattleBards.
And I wish you all the luck in the world. I hope you actually get funded on this.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about this, actually. And like I said, I have never, ever used audio in my games before, but this is really making me want to use audio.
That's great. I mean, and being able to talk to someone that maybe hasn't used audio before, and then hearing your reactions, I got to tell you, and I'm sure I echo Mike, it really fills us with just so much energy and even more enthusiasm to kind of get converts, as it were, because we really feel that gaming could be involved. Here, now you can picture us having this conversation kind of in a bayou. In a
exactly.
swamp.
Yep.
Yeah. So so even if you just have this playing in the background, And I think this is one that has some fantasy elements to it. There's a lot of different renditions to our soundscapes. But, even if the party's just farting around and discussing what to do next, immersing them in this context really helps to set the stage, we think. And we really can't thank you enough for your time. It's such a pleasure to be on with you.
Well, thank you for agreeing to come on. And do you want to say something, Michael?
Just real quick, if you're having trouble with, figuring out audio, or if you need just a little bit of direction, we do have a YouTube channel. I said that, but we have videos out right now that are beyond the title, basically showing people how to use Fireball for catapult, or Stone Skin for skeletons coming up out of the ground, and stuff like that, to kind of help people that really are kind of maybe intimidated by it, or maybe just don't know how to use it. And then we have a new series of videos that we're putting together, and they're in post-production right now, but look for them soon. It's audio and gaming, how to use the audio in a game, like how we do it and how you can do it, all that good stuff. So we have some tools out there, and we're going to be continuing to do that as long as there's a need, or as long as people find it useful. So check those out.
Awesome, and I will link all of those links in the show notes of this episode.
Awesome, thank you.
So thank you guys both for coming on, and we will definitely keep an eye on this Kickstarter, and I will keep reporting on it as anything new comes along from it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening tonight. And this is Pine Leaf Needles reminding you to loot those treasure chests. There might be audio gold in there.